Part IV, Chapters 10 and 11 of Charles Rex by Ethel M. Dell. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 10. In the Name of Love. "It's been a funny game," said Saltash, with a wry grimace. "We've both of us been so damned subtle that it seems to me we've ended up much in the same sort of hole that we started in." "But you're not going to stay in it," said Maud. He turned and looked down at her, one eyebrow cocked at a comic angle. "Ma belle reine, if you can help us to climb out, you will earn my undying gratitude." She met his look with her steadfast eyes. "Charlie, do you know that night after night she cries as if her poor little heart were broken?" Saltash's eyebrow descended again. He scowled hideously. "Mais pourquoi? I have not broken it. I have never even made love to her." Maud's face was very compassionate. "Perhaps that is why. She is so young, so forlorn, and so miserable. Is it quite impossible for you to forgive her?" "Forgive her?" said Saltash. "Does she want to be forgiven?" "She is fretting herself ill over it," Maud said. "I can't bear to see her. No, she has told me nothing, except that she is waiting for you to throw her off, to divorce her." "Charlie, you wouldn't do that even if you could." Saltash was silent, the scowl still upon his face. "Tell me you wouldn't," she urged. His odd eyes met hers with a shifting gleam of malice. "There is only one reason for which I would do that, ma chère," he said. "So she has not told you why she ran away with my friend Spentoli?" Maud shook her head. "She does not speak of it at all. I only know that she was unspeakably thankful to Jake for protecting her from him." "Ah!" Saltash's teeth showed for an instant. "I also am grateful to Jake for that. He seems to have taken a masterly grip of the situation. Is he aware that he broke Spentoli's arm, I wonder? It was in the papers alongside the tragic death of Roselle fall of a famous sculptor from a train. It will keep him quiet for some time, I hear, and has saved me the trouble of calling him out. I went to see him in the hospital." "You went to see him?" Maud exclaimed. Saltash nodded, the derisive light still in his eyes. "And conveyed my own condolences. You may tell La Petite from me that I do not propose to set her free on his account. He is not what I should describe as a good and sufficient cause." "Thank Heaven for that!" Maud ejaculated with relief. "Amen," said Saltash piously, and took out his cigarette case. She watched him with puzzled eyes till the cigarette was alight, and he smiled at her through the smoke, his swarthy face full of mocking humour. "Now tell me," she said then, "how can I help you?" He made a wide gesture. "I leave that entirely to your discretion, madam. As you may perceive, I have wholly ceased to attempt to help myself." "You are not angry with her?" she hazarded. "I am furious," said Charles Rex royally. She shook her head at him. "You're not in earnest, and it wouldn't help if you were. Besides, you couldn't be angry with the poor little thing. Charlie, you love her, don't you? You want her back?" He shifted his position slightly, so that the smoke of his cigarette did not float in her direction. His smile had a whimsical twist. "Do I want her back?" he said. "On my oath, it's hard to tell." "Oh, surely," Maud said. She rose impulsively and stood beside him. "Charlie," she said, "why do you wear a mask with me? Do you think I don't know that she is all the world to you?" He looked at her, and the twisted smile went from his face. "There is no woman on this earth that I can't do without," he said. "I learnt that when I lost you." "Ah!" Maud's voice was very pitiful. Her hand came to his. "But this is different. Why should you do without her? You know she loves you." His fingers closed springlike about her own. A certain hardness was in his look. "If she loves me," he said, "she can come back to me of her own accord." "But if she is afraid?" Maud pleaded. "She has no reason to be," he said. "I have claimed nothing from her. I have never spoken a harsh word to her. Why is she afraid?" "Have you understood her?" Maud asked, very gently. He made an abrupt movement as though the question, notwithstanding the absolute kindness of its utterance, had somehow an edge for him. The next moment he began to laugh. "Why ask these impossible riddles? Has any man ever understood a woman? Let us dismiss the subject. And since you are here, ma belle reine, you of all people, let us celebrate the occasion with a drink, even if it be only tea." His eyes laughed into hers. The western light was streaming in across the music room. They stood together in the turret beyond Saltash's piano, where she had found him pouring out wild music that made her warm heart ache for him. She had come to him with the earnest desire to help, but he baffled her at every turn, this man to whom once in the days of her youth she had been so near. She could not follow the complex workings of his mind. He was too quick to cover his feelings. His inner soul had long been hidden from her. Yet the conviction persisted that if any could pass that closed door that he kept so persistently against all comers, it would be herself. She had once possessed the key, and she could not believe that it was no longer in her power to turn it. He would surely yield to her, though he barred out all beside. Perhaps he read her thoughts, for the laugh died out of his eyes, melting into the old tender raillery that she remembered so well. "Will you drink with me?" he said. "You have actually stooped to enter my stronghold without your bodyguard. Will you not honour me still further, partake of my hospitality?" She smiled at him. "Of course I will have tea with you with pleasure, Charlie. Didn't you realize I was waiting to be asked?" "You are very gracious," he said, and crossed the room to ring a bell. She remained in the western turret, looking out over the beech woods that blazed golden in the sun to the darker pine woods beyond. "What a paradise this is!" she said, when he joined her again. His restless eyes followed hers without satisfaction. A certain moodiness had come upon him. He made no answer to her words. "Why doesn't Bunny come up to see me?" he asked suddenly. "He knows I am here." She looked at him in surprise. "Are you expecting him?" He nodded with a touch of arrogance. "Yes. Tell him to come. I shan't quarrel with him, or he with me. Is he still thirsting for my blood? He's welcome to it if he wants it." "Charlie!" she protested. He turned from her and sat down at the piano. His fingers began to caress the keys, and then in a moment the old sweet melody that he had played to her in the long ago days came softly through the room. Her lips formed the words as he played, but she made no sound. "There has fallen a splendid tear from the passion flower at the gate. She is coming, my dove, my dear. She is coming, my life, my fate. The red rose cries, she is near, she is near. And the white rose weeps, she is late. The larkspur listens, I hear, I hear. And the lily whispers, I wait." "She is certainly very late," commented Charles Rex quizzically from the piano. "And the lily is more patient than I am. Why don't you sing, Maud of the Roses?" She started a little at his voice, but she did not answer. She could not tell him that her throat was dumb with tears. He played softly on for a space, then as the old butler entered with the tea tray he abruptly left the piano to wait upon her. He made her sit in the window seat, and presently sat down himself and talked of indifferent things. She did not attempt to bring him back to the matter in hand. She knew him too well for that. If he chose to be elusive, no power on earth could capture him. But she had a strong feeling that he would not seek to elude her wholly. He might seem to trifle, as a monkey swinging idly from bough to bough, but he had an end in view, and ultimately he would reach that end, however circuitous the route. He surprised her eventually by the suddenness with which he pounced upon it. He had turned the talk upon the subject of his new yacht, and very abruptly he announced his intention of going round the world in her. "Not alone," she said, and then would have checked the words, lest they should seem to ask too much. But he answered her without a pause. "Yes, alone. And if I don't come back, Bunny can marry Toby and reign here in my stead. That is, if he isn't an infernal fool. If he is, then Toby can reign here alone, with you and Jake to take care of her." "But, Charlie, why? Why?" The words leapt from Maud in spite of her. He frowned at her whimsically. "They've always cared for one another. Don't you know it? It's true she put me in a shrine and worshipped me for a time, but I couldn't live up to it. Figurez-vous, ma chère, myself, a marble saint." "You never understood her," Maud said. He shrugged his shoulders, and went lightly on. "Oh, she was ready enough to offer me human sacrifice, but that wasn't enough for me. Besides, I didn't want sacrifice. I have stood between her and the world. I have given her protection. But it was a free gift. I don't take anything in exchange for that." An odd note sounded in his voice, as of some emotion suppressed. He leaned back against the window frame, his hands behind his head. "That wasn't what I married her for. I tried to prove that to her. I actually thought" the old derisive grin leapt across his face "that I could win her trust like any ordinary man. I failed, of course. Failed hideously. She never expected decent treatment from me. She never even began to trust me. I was far too heavily handicapped for that. And so, as soon as the wind changed, the boat capsized." "What made the wind change?" Maud asked gently. He looked across at her, the baffling smile still in his eyes. "The gods played a jest with us," he said. "It was only a small jest, but it turned the scale. She fled. That was how I came to realize I couldn't hold her. I had traveled too fast, as usual, and she couldn't keep up. Well," he unlocked his hands and straightened himself, "it's up to Bunny now. I'll let her go to him." "My dear!" Maud said. He laughed at her with the old half caressing ridicule. "That shocks you. But why, if they love each other? Haven't I heard you preach the gospel of love as the greatest thing on earth? Didn't you once tell me that I had yet to learn the joy" his smile twisted again "the overwhelming joy of setting the happiness of another before one's own? This thing can be done quite simply and easily, as I suggested to you long ago. She has only to go away with him, and I do the rest. A moral crime, no more. Yes, it is against your code, of course. But consider. I only stand to lose that which I have never possessed. For the first time in my life I commit a crime in the name of love." He laughed over the word, yet even through the scoffing sound there came a ring of pain. His face had a drawn look, the wistfulness of the monkey that has seen its prize irrevocably snatched away. Maud rose quickly. There was something in his attitude or expression that she could not bear. "Oh, you are wrong. You are wrong," she said. "You have the power to make her love you. And you love her. Charlie, this thing has not been given you to throw away. You can't. You can't." He made a sharp gesture that checked her. "My dear Maud," he said, "there are a good many things I can't do, and one of them is this. I can't hold any woman against her will. No, not if she were my wife 10 times over. I wouldn't have let her go to Spentoli. But Bunny is a different matter. I have Jake's word for it that he will make her a better husband than I shall. If Bunny wants to know all about her past, her parentage, he can come to me and I can satisfy him. Tell him that. But if he really loves her, he won't care a damn, any more than I do." "Ah," Maud said. She stood a moment, looking at him, and in her eyes was that mother look of a love that understands. She held out her hand to him. "Thank you for telling me, Charlie," she said. "Good bye." He held her hand. "What have I told you?" he asked, abruptly. She shook her head. "Never mind now. You have just made me understand, that's all. I will give your message to Bunny, to them both. Good bye." He stooped in his free, gallant way to kiss her hand. "After all," he said, "I return to my old allegiance. It was you, chère reine, who taught me how to love." She gently freed her hand and turned to go. "No," she said, "I think it was God who taught you that." For the second time Charles Rex failed to utter the scoffing laugh she half expected. The odd eyes looked after her with a kind of melancholy irony. "To what purpose?" he said. 11. The Gift of the Gods. A chill wind blew across the ramparts, bringing with it the scent and the sound of the sea. There was no moon in the sky to night, only the clouds flying over the stars, obscuring and revealing them alternately, making their light weirdly vague and fitful. Across the park an owl called persistently, its eerie hoot curiously like the cry of a human voice through the rustling night. The trees were murmuring together down by the lake, as though some mysterious news were passing to and fro among them. And once more, alone on his castle walls, Saltash paced restlessly up and down. It was his last night at Birchester, so he told himself, for many a year to come. The fever for change was upon him. He had played his last card, and lost. It was characteristic of the man to turn his back upon his losses and be gone. His soul had begun to yearn for the wide spaces, and it was in answer to the yearning that he had come up to his eagle's eyrie a second time. He could not be still, and the feeling of walls around him was somehow unbearable. But he expected no vision to-night. He walked in darkness. Down in the harbor his yacht was waiting, and he wondered cynically what whim kept him from joining her. Why was he staying to drain the cup to the dregs, he, who had the whole world to choose from? He had sent his message, he had made his sacrifice. At what a cost, not even Maud would ever know. It was the first voluntary sacrifice he had ever made, he reflected ironically, and he marveled at himself to find that he cared so much. For after all, what was it he had sacrificed? Nothing worth having, so he told himself. He had possessed her childish adoration, but her love, never. And very curiously, it was her love that he had wanted. Actually, for the first time in his life, no less a thing had appealed to him. Jaded and weary with long experience, he owned now to a longing for that at which all his life long he had scoffed. The longing was not to be satisfied. He was to go empty away. But yet the very fact that he had known it had in some inexplicable fashion purified him from earthly desires. He had, as it were, reached up and touched the spiritual, and that which is not spiritual had crumbled away below him. He looked back upon the desert through which all his life he had travelled, and saw only sand. The sound of the turret door banging behind him recalled him to his surroundings. He awoke to the fact that the wind was chill, and that a drift of rain was coming in from the sea. With an impatient shrug he turned. Why was he lingering here like a drunken reveller at a table of spilt wine? He would go down to his yacht and find Larpent, who had also loved and lost. They would go out on the turn of the tide, the two losers in the game of life, and leave the spilt wine behind them. Impulsively he strode back along the ramparts. The game was over, and he would never play again, but at least he would face the issue like a man. No one, not even Larpent, should ever see him flinch. So he reached the turret door and came abruptly to a halt. It was no vision that showed her to him, standing there in her slender fairness, wrapped in a cloak that glimmered vaguely blue in the glimmering starlight. Her face was very pale, and he saw her frightened eyes as she stood before him. Her hands were tightly clasped together, and she spoke no word at all. The door was shut behind her, and he saw that she was trembling from head to foot. He stood motionless within reach of her, but not touching her. "Well?" he said. She made a curious gesture with her clasped hands, standing before him as she had stood on board his yacht on that night in the Mediterranean when she had come to him for refuge. "I've come," she said in a voice that quivered uncontrollably, "to tell you something." Saltash did not stir. His face was in shadow, but there was a suggestion of tension about his attitude that was not reassuring. "Well?" he said again. She wrung her hands together with a desperate effort to subdue her agitation, and began again. "I've come to tell you something." "Something I don't know?" he questioned cynically. She nodded. Something you don't want to know. It was Maud made me come." That moved him a little. That piteous stammer of hers had always touched his compassion. "Don't fret yourself, ma chère," he said. "I know all there is to know, all about Roselle, all about Larpent, all about Spentoli." You don't know this," said Toby. You don't know why I ran away from you in Paris." "Don't I?" he said, and she heard the irony of his voice. "I have an agile brain, my child. I can generally jump the gaps pretty successfully." She shook her head with vehemence. "And how do you know about Spentoli?" she demanded suddenly. "Who told you that?" "The man himself," said Saltash. "Ah! And what did he tell you?" A note of fierceness sounded in her voice. She seemed to gather herself together like a cornered animal preparing to make a wild dash for freedom. Saltash made her a queer, abrupt bow, and in so doing he blocked the way before her so that she could only flee by the way she had come. "He told me nothing that I did not know before," he said. "Nothing that your own eyes had not told me long ago." "What do you mean?" breathed Toby, pressing her clasped hands tightly to her breast. Her eyes were still upraised to his. They glittered in the dimness. Saltash answered her more gently than was his wont. "I mean that I know the sort of inferno your life had been. A perpetual struggle against odds that were always overwhelming you. If it hadn't been so you would never have come to me for shelter. Do you think I ever flattered myself that that was anything but a last resource? The final surrender to circumstance? If I had failed you " "Wait," Toby broke in tersely. "You're right in some things. You're wrong there. It's true I was always running away as soon as I was old enough to realize the rottenness of life. Spentoli tried to ruin me, but I dodged him, and then, when he trapped me, the hell hound, I did my best to murder him." The breath suddenly whistled through her teeth. "I tried to stab him to the heart. God knows I tried. But I suppose it wasn't in the right place, for I didn't get there. I left him for dead. I thought he was dead, till that day in Paris. And ever since, it's been just a nightmare fight for life and safety. I'd have tried some other dodge if you hadn't found me. I was not quite down and out. But you made all the difference. I had to go to you." "And why?" said Charles Rex. She rushed on, regardless of question. The floodgates were open. She was hiding nothing from him now. "You came. If you'd been an angel from heaven, you couldn't have been more wonderful. You helped me, believed in me, gave me always the benefit of the doubt, made a way of escape for me, made life possible, even beautiful." She choked a little over the word. "I offered you just everything. I couldn't help it. You were the only man in the world to me. How could I help worshipping you? You were always so splendid, so great. You made me realize that life was worth having. You made me believe in God." She broke into sudden wild tears. "And you didn't love me enough even to take the little I had to give. I didn't want you to marry me. I never dreamt of such a thing. I had kept myself from harm, but I knew very well I wasn't fit to be your wife. Only I loved you so. And when I knew that Bunny was turning against me, would never believe in me, I just couldn't help turning to you again. And then you went and married me." She wrung her hands tragically. "I ought not to have let you. God will never forgive me for it. I don't deserve to be forgiven. But I loved you. I loved you." She covered her face and sobbed. Saltash reached out a hand and took her by the shoulder. "Nonette, Nonette," he said, in a voice that was strangely uncertain. "Don't cry, child. Don't cry." She drew herself away from him. Don't. I don't want you to. I just came to tell you. That's all. In case you should think I ever cared for Bunny. Maud says you ought to know that. We only played together. We never really loved each other. I wasn't his sort, or he mine. He doesn't want me back. I wouldn't go if he did. I ran away with that damn cur Spentoli to give you a chance to drop me. I couldn't face you after you knew everything. You'd never loved me, and I tricked you too badly. I knew you'd want to get free. Why didn't you start in and get a divorce? Why didn't you? Why didn't you?" She suddenly lifted her face, storming the words, electrified as it were by the wild force of her passion. Again he reached a hand towards her, but she eluded him with a desperate gesture. "No, no, don't touch me, don't touch me. I can't bear it. I'm going now. I'm going right away. You'll never see me again, never hear of me. And you'll be free. Do you understand? You'll be quite free. I'll keep that promise I made to you. It won't be difficult. No one shall ever know how. And only you who never even pretended to love me, will be able to guess why." She turned about with the words, and wrenched furiously at the door behind her. In another moment she would have been gone. But in that moment Saltash moved, perhaps more swiftly than he had ever moved in his life before, and in a flash he had her in his arms. She fought for her freedom then like a terrified animal, twisting this way and that, straining with frenzied effort to escape. And when, his hold encompassing her, he broke down her resistance, pressing her indomitably closer and closer, till she lay powerless and palpitating against his breast, she burst into agonized tears, beseeching him, imploring him to set her free. "Why should I?" he said, still holding her. "Don't you know yet that it's the very last thing I mean to do?" "You must, oh, you must!" she cried back. "You can't, you can't hold me against my will." "That's true," said Saltash, as if struck by something. "And are you capable of leaving me against mine?" His hold relaxed with the words, and instantly she sprang away from him, sprang like a fleeing bird upon the low parapet beside them, and in a second she was sliding out upon the narrow ledge that surrounded the great stone buttress of the turret. "Hell!" ejaculated Saltash, and gave a great leap as if he would pursue her, then with abrupt effort checked himself. He stood with one foot on the parapet and watched her, and in the vague starlight his eyes burned with the old mocking devilry behind which he had so long sheltered his soul. "So you think you'll get away from me that way, do you?" he said, and laughed his gibing laugh. "Well, you may try. Either stay there till you've had enough, or throw yourself over. I'll get you in any case." She came to a stand, her hands spread out on each side of her, her eyes turning back to him across the awful space that yawned between. Sheer depth was below her, but she did not seem aware of it. "I will throw myself over," she said with a tense purpose, "unless you promise, unless you swear, to let me go." He laughed again, but there was no mirth in the glittering eyes that looked back at her, neither mirth nor dismay, only the most arrogant and absolute mastery that she had ever encountered. "I promise nothing," he said, "except that one way or the other I'm going to have you. You can take your choice. You can sink or swim. But you won't get away. There is a bond between us that you can't break, however hard you try. Fling yourself over if you think it's worth it. And before you get to the bottom I shall be with you. I'll chase you through the gates of Hades. I've traveled alone far enough. For the future we go together. That I swear to God." Across the abyss he flung his tremendous challenge, the laugh still on his lips, and in his eyes the blazing derision that mocks at fate. And as she heard it, the girl's heart suddenly failed her. She began to tremble. Yet, even so, she made a last desperate bid for pride and freedom. She clutched at the cold stones on each side of her with nerveless, quivering fingers. "There is no bond between us," she gasped forth piteously. "There never has been." He flung back the words like a missile, unerring, blindingly direct. "No bond between us? Good God! Would I follow you through death if there were not?" And then, suddenly, with an amazing change to tenderness that leapt the void and enchained her where she stood, "Toby, Toby, you little ass! Don't you know I've loved you from the moment the night moth struck?" There was no questioning the truth of those words. A great sob broke from Toby, and the tension went out of her attitude. She stood for a few seconds with her head raised, and on her face the unutterable rapture of one who sees a vision. Then, with sharp anguish, "I can't come back," she cried like a frightened child. "I'm going to fall." Saltash straightened himself. His forehead was wet, but he did not pause for a moment. "I'm coming to you," he said. "Keep as you are, and I'll give you a hand to hold." She obeyed him as one dazed into submission. Blindly she waited, till with a monkey-like agility he also had traversed that giddy ledge to where she stood. His fingers met and gripped her own. "Now," he said, "come with me, and you are safe. You can't fall. My love is holding you up." She heard the laugh in his voice, and her panic died. Mutely she yielded herself to him. By the strength of his will alone she left the abyss behind. But when he lifted her from the parapet back to safety, she cried out as one whom fear catches by the throat, and fainted in his arms. Out of a great darkness the light dawned again for Toby. She opened her eyes, gasping to find that the scene had changed. She was lying upon tiger skins in Saltash's conical chamber, and he, the king of all her dreams, was kneeling by her side. That was the first thing that occurred to her. That he should kneel. "Oh, don't! Oh, don't!" she said quickly. "I am not Maud." He regarded her humorously, but the old derisive lines were wholly gone from his dark face. His eyes held something that was unfamiliar, something that made her quiver with a quick agitation that was not distress. "So I am only allowed to kneel to Maud," he said. She tried to meet his look, and failing, hid her face. I know you have always loved her," she murmured rather incoherently. You couldn't pretend to really love anyone else after Maud." There fell a brief silence, and she thought the beating of her heart would choke her. Then there came the touch of his hand upon her head, and its wild throbbing grew calmer. "No," he said, and in his voice was a new deep note unknown to her. "I am not pretending, Nonette." The light touch drew her, as it were, magnetically. With a swift impulsive movement she raised herself, gave herself to him, hiding her face still more deeply against his breast. "But you couldn't really love me," she whispered like an incredulous child. "You sure you do?" His arms went round her, holding her fast. He made no other answer. Saltash, the glib of tongue and ready of jibe, was for once speechless in the presence of that which has no words. She nestled closer to him as a little furry animal that has found its home. Her incredulity was gone, but she kept her face hidden. "But why didn't you tell me before?" she said. He bent his black head till his lips reached and rested against her hair. "Nonette," he said, "you told me that I had made you believe in God." "Yes," she whispered back, rather breathlessly. "Yes." "That's why," he said. "You got me clean through my armor there. Egad, it made me a believer, too. If I'd failed you after that well, he'd have been justified in damning me body and soul." "But you couldn't," she protested. "You couldn't fail me." His dark face twisted with the old wry grimace. "I failed a good many in my time, Nonette. But no one ever trusted me to that extent. You practically forced me to prove myself." A little gasp of relief came from Toby. She spoke with more assurance. "Oh, was that it? You were just trying to be good?" "Just trying," said Saltash. "You still trying?" asked Toby, a little curious note of laughter in her voice. "I shan't keep on much longer," he returned, "unless I get what I want." "There'd be a blue moon if you did," remarked Toby impudently. Saltash raised his head abruptly. "By Jupiter, there is one," he said. "Let's go to her." Toby's face shot upwards in a moment. "Where?" Her eyes sought the skylight above them and the dim mysterious blue of the night. His came down to her in a flash, dwelt upon her, caressed her, drew her. She turned sharply and looked at him. "Charles Rex," she said reproachfully. He took her pointed chin and laughed down at her. His eyes, one black, one grey, shone with a great tenderness, holding hers till they widened and shone back with a quick blue flame in answer. "Then, as I was saying," remarked Charles Rex royally, "when I was interrupted some 6 months ago, I have never yet refused a gift from the gods." "But you've taken your time over accepting it, haven't you?" said Toby with a chuckle. He bent to her. "Let's go," he said again. End of Part 4, Chapters 10 and 11. The End of Charles Rex, by Ethel M. Dell. Recorded by Céline Major.